Want advice from your friend Ellie? I'm actually going to be trying a lot of products out whilst doing this, because I'm doing like a get ready with me meets trying new products meets Ellie gives advice meets in awkward locations. I'm going to put it up on the screen as well, just in case any of you want more information. This is going to be a really easy way to get up close and personal and show your product. Can you hear that? This is a weird like tip. I already have something by this brand. It's by Touch in Soul. Hopefully the stuff will be cool as well. Also, all of these products I'm using came in my BoxyCharm boxes. I do have a lot of like BoxyCharm unboxings on my channel, so I thought I'd mix it up a little bit and kind of do something slightly different. Oh, this is stinging a little bit. Should that be stinging? The brushes are Luxie brushes again. They must really love Luxie. Please help keep our planet beautiful by recycling this package. I like that because I believe they haven't done that before. We stan a considerate brand. Do people even say stan anymore? Like, they always seem to have really nice handles, and this one's like a wooden pinky thing. This is really cool. Look at this. This is a Tarte eyeshadow palette. High Performance Naturals. Oh, it's a natural one. Whoa. I'll have to see what this is worth and possibly consider selling it. This is Butter London. I love this packaging. And on the inside, there are a lot more interesting colors to work with here. So, this blue here on the very end. So I asked you a lot on Instagram if you got any like help, if you got any help. If you need any help with any advice, Carl said advice on moving out. I get to do that in about a week. If I'm going to be honest, I'm just going to say whatever worked for me, and I'm sorry if this isn't going to be helpful in your situation, but I would definitely say if you are moving out with somebody else, if someone else is in the process with you, it literally makes the journey 12 times easier, as you can like discuss expectations with them. You can talk about what you're excited for, what you're not excited for. If you've got people in your boat, the situation won't be as scary. And if not, like, keep as many people around you as possible, like familiars. So if you're not moving out with someone else, then make sure like you meet up and see people who were part of your old life when you were in another situation as often as possible. So you can discuss with people like how you're finding it all, talk about the experience as a whole, like what you're learning from it and what you're nervous about. I think just talk things out with people, and also don't be afraid to kind of feel the feels. Like if you fancy crying because it's a bit overwhelming, because packing is a bitch. Something which literally was the very reason why I was able to move out even though I was petrified, was not seeing the whole thing as a long-term thing. And I kind of talk about this in my video called moving out of my family's house or something like that, but I'll leave a link to that in my video description. But I basically discussed in that video how if you kind of tell yourself that you're just doing something as an experiment to see how it goes, that makes the whole situation seem less permanent. When we're doing something that we're nervous about, you kind of stress about the consequences that might come with it, like, oh, I'm nervous about moving out because I can't cook. I'm nervous about moving out because I miss my friends. I'm nervous about moving out because I rely on my family so much and have always done, etc. So many different things that you're stressed about. But the minute you kind of say, if this doesn't work out in a year, I will just go back to how the way things were before, it really helps you be more open to trying something new and not worrying about how things are going to change so dramatically in your life, because you can always just kind of go back if it wasn't right for you. Now, if you're doing something which you can't go back to, like if you're making a move that has to be permanent and things aren't going to go back to the way they were, at least you kind of don't have that opportunity there to tease you of like not actually going. Because the reason why I decided not to look at things so permanently is because I didn't want to back out last minute, and that's something that I've done with a lot of decisions I've made in the past. Like I end up kind of saying, right, I don't want to do it anymore, and I just like scare myself out of doing something really cool that would have been a really amazing opportunity. And lastly, just focus on the reason why you're doing the move in the first place. Like there's obviously a reason why you want to move out. There's a reason why you have this calling to kind of like change your situation, change your location, improve your life, and know that essentially this is gonna happen. Like in your life, you're not going to live with your parents, or you're not going to live depending on someone else for the rest of your life. So it's just kind of inevitable, really. And let those kind of moments of excitement lead the way. So be very vocal, even if it means talking to yourself in the freaking mirror like I am. Just be very vocal about like what you're excited about, or tell other people, tell your friends, Like, oh, I'm so excited for independence, be in charge of decorating my house. I'm so excited to be like a full-grown adult. Whatever it is that excites you the most about the move, really focus in on that and do what you can to kind of enhance that as well. So if the decorating part of the process is the thing that you're excited about, then I would suggest buying like as much kind of decor as you can to get you excited about it, and then when you get into the place you can decorate your home with the stuff you bought. Enjoy and relate the process to something positive and exciting. At the end of the day, nothing is truly permanent, and a lot of the time we're all just kind of winging it, even though we all look at our friends and family and think, God, they have it all together and they know exactly what they're doing. A lot of the time people aren't. They're just kind of experimenting, and you are too. Like, if you don't end up loving it and it isn't everything you wanted it to be, then you can always change course of action. It's fine. Things are probably gonna start swinging very differently in your life. Like, the way life goes for you is going to dramatically change for sure. But you're going to start experiencing so much more. Like, if you're bored with the way things are for you in life right now, then that's definitely going to change. You're not going to be bored. There's going to be so much for you to take in, so much for you to do. And I think you'll be so busy with just moving in and trying to sort things out that you're never really going to stop and think too much and dwell too much about how life is right now and how different things are, because almost half a year into moving out into my own place, and I have not stopped to think. I've just been busy doing things, and you don't really dwell as much as you predict you do. And when you do, it really is okay to feel the feels and tell people about it, and it will immediately make you feel better. Make sure you have financial backup as well. I wouldn't suggest anyone personally to move out if they don't have a little lump of savings in case things go wrong, which happened to me. Like, I moved out and then I had to make an investment because my equipment was breaking, and some other things that popped up that I didn't even think about I would need. Money is something that can really like screw us over. Like, we think we're fine one minute emotionally, and then you fork out a load of money for something that you weren't expecting to, and that can kind of like affect you emotionally because you're suddenly overwhelmed by the concept of being independent, and you haven't really got anyone watching your back anymore or like spoon feeding you, and that can be quite an emotional thing sometimes. Like, when that happens to me, I walk off, go sit in the toilet, and I have a little cry to myself, and I walk back out of the bathroom and I'm like, hi Adam, I'm fine. He knows I'm not because I've got red eyes, but up and down roller coaster process, but ride the waves. And I would also say give it like a year. Things will not kind of feel right and settled straight away, or they might feel very right and settled straight away and then it hits you about 6 months later. So let life kind of give you the swing of how things are going to go as an independent person, and then make your judgments of how you feel. On a similar topic of moving and stuff, someone said locating all of your stuff up north, which they seem to be doing the same thing. So relocating a load of stuff from A to B. For this, our situation was a little bit different because I could have my stuff stored at my parents' house while we were trying to find somewhere to live, and like it wasn't so much of like moving all of our stuff to like a storage unit that would charge us to store our things in it, if that makes sense. It took 2 different vans to go up the country in. The first van had Adam's stuff in and the second van had my stuff in. It just made more logical sense to do it in 2 loads because I didn't necessarily need my stuff immediately, and Adam obviously is a lot more independent than I am. Like, he was moving out from someone's room he was renting out, so he couldn't store it there. Obviously he had to go, whereas for me, like, my family could look after mine. And then whilst we were house hunting, a lovely aunt of Adam kept all of his stuff in her garage. So I would say be quite like open and do ask around in case there is anyone who has access to any form of storage, which may sound cheeky, but you can offer payment. You can say to people like, you know, I'm willing to like pay for some space in somebody's loft or whatever. Like, ask around on Facebook. I don't know if that's a possibility for you. If not, hire a big ass van and make sure you work out exactly what you have. Like, pack all your stuff up that's being moved, put it all in one kind of like area, and then try and just kind of translate that area to how big a van would be. Maybe even take a picture of all the stuff you have and send it to a guy that you're renting a van from. I can't drive, so I had my dad help us move the van up the country twice, but we would have ordered a man in a van. We were going to have a man in a van. You hire a man and then you hire the van and then he drives for you. We would have done that because I didn't want to give my dad that responsibility, but he insisted. And yeah, make sure you get the size right of all the stuff you need. It's better to kind of overestimate than underestimate, that's for sure. Also, I would suggest to do a big clear out and be really honest with yourself and be brutal about what it is you need and what it is you don't, because you'll end up saving yourself a fortune if you get a smaller van. You don't want to do the clear out when the stuff's arrived at your new place, because that would be silly. I'm using my Brow Pow. I got this just the other day after a random hunt for like a new brow product I haven't tried before. It just looks like that. It's all right, it's not the best, it does the job. I just like the packaging. I had a lot of comments from people who were obviously starting uni soon or college, and they were very anxious and stressed about the things coming in the future and just how I deal with anxieties and worries. And that is something I feel like I'm getting to grips a little bit more these days. I used to be absolutely horrendous with stuff like that. And honestly, with any kind of issues regarding future stuff, I've always been a worrier. I've always been an anxious person. I do just tend to stress myself out by thinking up so many different scenarios that could go wrong and overthinking just the whole process and wondering whether I make the right decisions. And what I tend to do to help me with that is to really think about the people I have in my life who tend to not struggle with that issue. I think by looking and analysing and channeling people's energy around me who I'm inspired by really helps me go about my daytime life. So it's a little bit like when people have like when someone channels in to a certain personality that they've made up for themselves. So some people say like, oh, I have this other side of me that's called like Chanel, and she's very confident, and I just try and channel into her energy. And people have said that to me before. They're like, oh, I've got this like double personality, and I just like turn myself into her and I instantly become really confident. And it does sound a little bit silly, but I do believe in that. Like, that's because I do it when I'm trying to be someone who I am admired by. My best friend Lorna, she's one of the most confident people I know, and she's incredible, and I love the energy she gives off. It's kind of this like unapologetic energy of like, this is the way I am. She's very proud of who she is, and therefore when I am in a situation where I don't feel confident in the slightest, I want to just run away. I want to give up. I stop, I assess the situation, I have a moment to myself, or if that's in a room, in a cupboard, just anywhere quiet, and I say to myself, what would Lorna do? And I think about it, I imagine it, I envision it, and then I step forward and do the exact thing I envisioned. And I take on this like persona of somebody else, and I think that really, really helps, because it's a fake it till you make it kind of situation. A lot of life is about winging it, you know, just saying like, right, how do I want to be today? And then you just do it, and then you wait until it's the actual way you are. So a lot of people, they wake up every day and they choose happiness in the morning, and I've always believed in that. Once you make that decision to choose happiness, you start like naturally feeling those hormones and that buzz, and you start bringing in a more grateful and appreciative energy, and you start looking at things for the way they are, and you understand suddenly life's actually really good and I've got nothing to worry about. When I'm anxious, I think of my dad. He's someone who thinks on his feet and he doesn't really worry. His famous phrase would be, whatever will be, que sera, whatever it is. He tends to be someone who doesn't worry about the future. So I would say during an anxious moment, what would my dad say? And I can almost hear his response straight away, and it'll be something like, what are you worrying for? It hasn't happened yet. Or what's the big issue? Like, you're healthy, aren't you? You've got your health, you've got health, you've got wealth. And I think, yeah, like, I want to be someone, if I was half of the guy that, I'm a girl, if I was half of the person that my dad is, I would be like, over the moon. I'm getting overwhelmed. I think it's because I miss him. But I inspire to be these great people, and eventually I feel like that works over time. And when I've lost my head a little bit, when I'm maybe making moves without thinking before doing anything, and that's putting me in these like kind of bad negative consequences, I think of my mum. She's very slow and steady, wins the race. She always happens to think of like all the pros and cons. She's very good at thinking about the next course of action. And I would also think about my mum when I prejudge someone. If I end up kind of assuming something about someone, I hear my mum in my head like, you never know what someone's going through, you never know someone's story. So yeah, I have little alter egos. It really helps me. I don't know. Also, anxiety is just something that I've kind of tried to get better and better at over time as my life has gone on. And I'm aware it can't be completely cancelled out just by like imagining you're like Susan or something when your name's Amy, I would always say and always stand by the best way to get over anything that's a mental issue, particularly anxiety, because anxiety is essentially just a load of thoughts about things that haven't happened yet, assumptions, and they don't exist. They're kind of just in the head. You need to kind of play out life for life to prove itself to you how it actually will go down and how things actually are going to pan out. I think it's really important to see the differences between thoughts and actual things happening, because a lot of the time the things we worry about never actually manifest itself. It's kind of just predetermined thoughts that we push onto ourselves because of, I don't know, past experiences or what we've seen other people go through, or maybe even things we've seen in films or TV. Also, we're all very, very hard on ourselves, so we always kind of expect the worst to happen anyway. Something that might help you is actually making very small goals to try and achieve every single day. You can do that by writing them on a little whiteboard by your bed, or putting notes up on the fridge, or just writing it in a notepad and checking the notepad every night that's kept under your pillow or something, of small goals that you want to give yourself which are slightly linked to your anxieties. So for me, I had a lot of issues with social anxiety, and it's still there, but it's tremendously gone down the more I pushed myself to do little things that I knew was scary. So I would write things down like ask someone for help to find something at the supermarket, and I would go to Asda, which I needed to do anyway, and I would physically go up to someone and be like, can you find me the oat milk? Even though I knew exactly where the oat milk was, and I was probably giving someone extra work to do, but it really helped me get better at my social skills and push myself to do little things like that that really aren't that hard. And then you can kind of work your way up to things like compliment a stranger, go up to that girl in my class who looks really cute and ask her if she wants to hang out after college. But pushing yourself really, really does help, because it also helps you realize how different reality looks to what you've made up in your brain and made up in your mind. And even though you could actually fall over in front of an entire crowd, which you imagined happening, and then it did go and happen, you're still better off from doing it than you would be from not doing it because you were scared about it happening. Because with every kind of shitty, embarrassing moment like that happening, you build like a stronger armor, and you kind of become a lot less kind of fearful. Like, it's a bit like looking at, like changing a baby's nappy, right? This is a weird analogy. At first it sounds kind of gross. You might not want to have kids because the thought of their poo petrifies you. Over time, you're gonna have changed so many nappies that you look at the 25th time you change it and you are not fazed. It's that same kind of thing. You push your boundaries a little bit more, things become more familiar to you, and your brain doesn't freak the hell out as much. And you're never going to be able to do that if you continue doing the same things you've always done. I understand anxiety is a thing that can hit you sometimes out of nowhere, and I find that very hard to deal with, like panic attacks and kind of irrational anxiety about something that doesn't actually exist. Like I could be sat watching TV and all of a sudden my brain's like, you're gonna die. That is where I struggle with. But the things that I make connections with, like if I'm in town and all of a sudden everyone looks like they're very overwhelming and in my face, I would do something like stop, focus on one person, and I would immediately realize I need to get more familiar with crowds, and I would start working my way up. Like I would test the waters and go to a crowded area on my own rather than with a friend, or maybe sit outside a crowd and watch a crowd and get familiar with the noises, with how many people there are, different conversations going on, and then start familiarizing myself in crowds when I don't have anything I particularly need to do in that environment. Like sometimes crowds are more overwhelming when you've got a lot like you need to do in that day because you're like stressed about that as it is, and then you're in the middle of all these people and you're just freaking out. So it's good to kind of experiment with your fears when you're in a good place mentally, because that way there's going to be as much clear air for you to think straight. Take every day as it comes, and don't immediately jump to the next thing when you've just achieved something that you were initially anxious about. I think things start changing for you a lot, and they did for me when I rewarded myself and congratulated myself when I did something that I thought was scary. Like, what we do is we focus in on the next scary thing all the time, like a phone interview for college. I'm petrified, I can't stop thinking about it, and for weeks it's leading up to that. And then as soon as you do that, the next day you're trying to think of next things to worry about already, and you haven't yet congratulated yourself and asked yourself how that phone interview went and how you've dealt with it and how you felt about it. You can be like, actually, wasn't as scary as I thought. I think I actually did really well. There were a few slip-ups here and there, but I did it. So that means that my next phone interview won't be as overwhelming. I have more experience of phone interviews now. Like, you need to just be a bit more mindful about what's going on now rather than thinking in the future all the time. That really helps. And honestly, just see everything as experience. When things go wrong or when things go right, both sides of it are experience at the end of the day. Some people I know practice doing things wrong deliberately to improve their anxiety. So I know this isn't recommended for everyone, but I know a lot of people that would purposely like drop something in a store, obviously not break anything, but drop something in a store to kind of like learn how to familiarize yourself with embarrassment, so you kind of become like prone to it. I actually tend to do well with things that I'm anxious about after I kind of trained my brain not to think ahead as much. Obviously be prepared for things like interviews and things you've got to have like stuff ready for, but I figured that I did so much worse and I cocked up a lot more when I prepared myself for that situation as much as possible. I actually did better when I wasn't really prepared, which isn't the best bit of advice to give. I think that's actually quite poor advice in case someone like doesn't prepare themselves for an interview, but that's something I feel has really worked for me. I'm just someone who wings things a whole lot better, because otherwise my anxiety does get in the way. And honestly, I'd rather be very confident and be able to like kind of fake it till I make it in an interview by winging it and just sort of like having this aura about me that's very confident, than being very prepared about things to say and having bullet points ready in my head and knowing all my qualifications by heart and trying to sell myself as much as possible, but being a nervous wreck while doing so. I think confidence speaks a whole lot more sometimes than showing, you know, your skills and talents a lot of the time, because it's just a lot more employable. But that is also something that can be argued, of course, but I know a lot of people that have managed to bag jobs and stuff just because of the fact that they ooze confidence. By the way, I just used a different eyeliner for the first time in so long. I've always used my liquid eyeliner by Collection. I've just used this by Beauty For Real, and this was in a BoxyCharm too. It's a liquid eyeliner, but it looks like that. It's more of like a felt tip, which I usually steer from, but it's really, really good. The next two questions I got were actually kind of hand in hand, I think, sort of, because the first question was how to maintain confidence in yourself and your body, and the next one was how not to feel insecure when your boyfriend has female friends. And I feel like they go well together, because your confidence in yourself equals to being a lot more at peace with situations such as your boyfriend having female partners. And I feel like it depends on many things with the female partner thing, because it could be something internal that you're kind of struggling with yourself because you're not very confident in yourself, or there might be like a reason why your boyfriend's making you feel that way. Like, you need to ask yourself, is this something that he's making me feel, or am I feeling it myself? Because for me, I'm not necessarily the most confident in myself, but I am so chill and fine with Adam having female friends because of how good the relationship is, and how he makes me feel is like nothing to worry about. Whereas if there were some like red flags there, then maybe that would change how I feel about him having female friends. He's not the kind of erratic person to make decisions that are stupid or not think before he does something. And he's someone who kind of wants a very like peaceful, chilled, laid back life. Like, one thing that he cannot deal with in life is drama, and there is so much drama that comes with like flirting or I don't know, seeing multiple people at once. And I think the more sure of yourself you are, the more worth you give yourself, the more you understand how great you are as a person and how lucky your boyfriend is to have you, the more you will have honestly this mentality of saying, you know, if he is going to be interested in anyone else, if he is going to go and dump my ass over some other basic biatch, then so be it. Like, I'm worth so much more than that. And that's the kind of attitude I have, which took me, I think, about 3 relationships to finally feel. I think my first relationship, I just kind of like put my all on them, and I depended on them and nothing else but them, and I didn't see myself as an individual who deserved more than someone stringing me along. My second relationship, I was almost there, but there were still parts of me that were kind of attached and didn't want to see myself as an individual. And now I'm at a point where literally, like, if Adam says to me, I'm not the person he wants anymore, like, I put so much into my relationship and I put so much effort and thought, and I work so hard towards our relationship that I can't give anymore. And if someone doesn't accept that and doesn't take that for what it is, and they can't be grateful for that, then I simply don't want to be with them. It would show a lot of true colours about them if they were to say, I am not happy, I don't want this, because I can't change anything that I'm bringing to this relationship if I feel like I'm putting my all in the first place. So I think it's really key to have that confidence. I think once that switch sort of clicked in my head and I realised how much I'm worth and how great of a girlfriend I am and what I put in and what I give, it removes that fear of like what things would be like without that person, because putting everything in that you can, and there's nothing more that you can do, and you've played your cards, you've shown who you are, and you've got to learn how to be unapologetic. If I could go back in time and say to little Ellie when she came out of her first relationship that I deserve someone who has seen my true colours and will accept them, rather than trying to beat myself up about the way I was every now and again and told myself like, oh, they didn't like me because I was this, like, fine, that's fine. If they didn't like me because I was this, that, then they're not supposed to be with me in the first place. Have I gone off to a new... Yes, I think I have. I've kind of gone off to a new topic here. So honestly, just have confidence in yourself and know that everyone has their own traits about them. That's great. But if your boyfriend's gonna be distracted by other girls, you want someone who puts their entire life on hold for you. You want someone that's willing to jump through hoops, and you don't want someone that's gonna like see someone else and be tempted, you know. If they've got female friendships, then great, that's fine. I think it's really healthy to have a good balance. Also, I like sometimes funny, I actually really like when Adam has like a female friend and he'll say like, oh god, she's going through relationship issues with this person, and I'm so glad like we don't have these dramas. And he sometimes learns how other females can be sometimes, and I sometimes like how that's a reminder to him that I'm like so chill. Understanding what other people bring to the table. You know, I'm a curvy girl, I'm a little bit bigger than the average. A lot of the time I've got mental hair because I can't control myself, and then I see other girls with natural long brown locks and slim figures, and they look great and fabulous, and I'm really happy for them. But that's them, this is me, this is what I bring. And it really helps to do things like have photo shoots of yourself, do fun things with your hair and makeup to be a bit more confident in who you are. Find your kind of identity as well. I think what really helps me be confident in my body is to understand what I like about fashion, for example. So I really like checkered stuff. When I buy stuff that gives me that confidence and helps me understand my identity a bit more, I really start loving how my body looks a little bit more. And then you can focus on the stuff that you love, such as I like my waist. I buy loads of high-waisted things, and that makes me feel so much more confident. If you like your eyes, for instance, work out what makeup brings them out a little bit more, or wear clothes that are the same colour as your eyes, because that might help bring them out, or opposite colours to your eyes. I don't know how it works, but wear clothes that would make your eyes pop a bit. Experiment. If you don't know what would make them pop, then put on all the clothes in a freaking high street store and see what happens. Just kind of experiment to find out what makes you be in touch with your identity a bit more and understand who you are as a person, and make you feel sexy as an individual rather than trying to be someone you see in magazines and stuff, because I don't think that kind of love for yourself lasts for very long. The last thing I'm going to talk about is jealousy. Someone said advice on what to do about jealousy, as in me feeling jealous about someone. I wanted to mention this because this is something that I actually have a lot of issues with. I just put this on, by the way. I've been using this for years. This is L'Oreal True Match Foundation in Linen. I am quite intense with my emotional side. I'm a Cancer, so my key phrase is I feel, meaning I feel everything I do. Every project I go into, every friendship I move into, every relationship I move into, every decision I make has been done with feelings. I don't tend to do things very like half-assed, and I don't tend to put too much time into something that I don't feel like emotionally invested into, and that can kind of come off as a bit cold to some people. If I'm not very emotionally invested into something, I will just kind of like not try at all, and a lot of people see that and they're like, all right, like she seems a bit off. But it's because I need to be so enjoying something and have a lot of like passion. I'm a very creative person as well. Creative people are generally very much driven by passionate, fiery energy. A lot of people who tell me that they're jealous people often tend to be people who feel a lot as a person. You might be an empath, or you might be one of the star signs that are a little bit on the feeling vibe, or just generally quite emotional people. And I've learned over time to understand my jealousy as something that's not necessarily a negative. At first, I kind of recognized it in me, and I got really embarrassed about it, and I hated that was the way I am. But I've analyzed it, and I do like to see it as passion and enthusiasm about the things that I am doing with my life. So what I mean by that, I'm using blush by the way, and that really scares me. I tend to be jealous about things which actually have passion behind it. It's not just I would see someone walking down the street and be like, she's got long brown hair and it looks beautiful, I'm so jealous. I would just see that and be like, wow, she looks stunning. The end. But for me, the jealousy comes out when it's to do with like big life things that I'm dealing with. Like if I've been kind of working for something for years and years, and then I see someone kind of like swan by, have the idea, and then achieve it themselves in like a week, that's when my jealousy kicks in, because I have so much passion and drive towards what I do all the time, and I put so much into it, and I put my entire soul into projects, and I put my entire everything, and I change things around in my life to make it work towards my goals and stuff. And when I see someone else kind of just like achieving it so easily, I just kind of can't help myself get a little bit jealous. And I think honestly it kind of just shows that I care, and it kind of just shows that I have goals and I have places that I want to be. And once I kind of recognize that I'm getting a bit kind of silly about it, I tend to try and make a joke about it. I've even approached people that I'm jealous of sometimes and been like, if I'm going to be honest, like I'm super jealous about the way you did that so easily, and it's like bugging me, and I'll like laugh about it, and that kind of sets it free a little bit. Like the truth will set you free, as in it won't sit on your mind as much because you've expressed that emotion, and you won't have that like bitterness kind of sat there, and it will come out in like horrible ways maybe. And then I've learned to kind of twist that into inspiration. I've learned how to see what somebody has achieved and then envision how great it must feel, understand how like their life must have changed, and then hope for the best for you. Know that obviously it's achievable because someone else around you has achieved it. Jealousy of someone reaching the dreams that you have will, if anything, rip those dreams away from you, because you'll be putting so much energy into an emotion that you could have been putting energy into the actual act of working on your dream itself. You know, I could sit and stare at someone on Instagram who's doing all the things I wanted to do all day long, but essentially that's going to get me nowhere. The minute you flip it to inspiration and hearing their story out and finding out what worked for them, maybe even have a conversation with people and be like, how did you do this? Or you've achieved that so well, like how do you have these talents, or anything. Just ask them a question, I would say, is a good bit of advice, and see what worked for them, so then you can take it on board as inspiration a little bit more, and also hear their story, because it adds a little bit more context to the situation. Because initially we might see something and be like, wow, they've done so good, so well, so quickly, but when you start hearing the story, you understand a little bit more that actually that's not always the case. They came from somewhere very difficult and very dark and very hard. They did a lot of risks, and I didn't see that behind the scenes. And then you can also hear the stuff that didn't work for them if they're willing to tell you, and you can let that help you achieve the things that they've achieved. I have so many lipsticks. I wish they didn't give me a lipstick with every BoxyCharm. Oh, this is an eyeshadow? Are you joking me? This is, oh my god. What the hell? Whoa. Okay, I'm using this for the rest of my goddamn life. This is not gonna look cute with what I've done on my eyes. Oh my. Is this gonna dry? I don't think you're gonna be able to see that, but I've put like the tiniest bit in my inner corner, but I wanna smother this over my entire eye next time. I don't really know if that was the kind of jealousy you were talking about, but if you're talking about like kind of more superficial sort of stuff, like looks and people's relationships, and to me that stuff kind of seems very like irrelevant when it comes to my own life because I get very excited for other people achieving things that they want to do. Like if someone has a degree in something, like, and it's not necessarily something that is particularly interesting to me in my life, like I can easily be happy for them. Or if someone has like a really slim waist, like I'm not going to get jealous about that because that's the way they are as an individual, and there's things about that person that I have and that they don't. You know, it would be very odd if we were born in a body or with a life that we desired from the very start, because can you just imagine that for a second? We were born into a body that we were like 100% content with, and it just kind of like matched our dream body image. We would then find a way to start judging other people's opinion on what a good body looks like. We would move from just laughing at someone for the way they were born to laughing at someone for the way they choose to be. Like as humans, we're always going to find a way to judge. Even when we're in a world where everyone essentially got what they want, you know, we're still going to be ridiculed. I love when lip gloss or lipstick or whatever lip product smells good. It actually makes me use it more, and that sounds gimmicky, but it genuinely sells for me. It smells like chocolate. Sweet like chocolate boy, gives me so much joy. This was Steve Laurent, as you can see here, and that fluorescent eyeshadow cream stuff I just used was by Tarte Luster Cream Eyeshadow. I got a little bit accidentally on my eyelash, but look at it, oh my goodness. I'll try and put a link to it. I hope you enjoyed this, guys. I hope this was a nice little format and setup for ya. I appreciate you all very much. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to be notified every time I make a brand new video. I'm on social media such as Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. If you want to catch me in between all my uploads, I also do tarot readings. So if you want to book one of those, use the email in my video description below. Thank you, and I will see you very soon. Cheers!